welcome to our Saturday speaker event. Today we have Mr. John Pate, who's he's the director of um, Burleson County at Impact, to help to lend a hand, and the mission of the organization is a Christ-centered 12-step recovery program for drugs and alcohol addiction. And Mr. Pate here is the director there. Um, so um, so thank you very much, Mr. Pate.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yes. Thank you for partaking a part in our event here.
Regina.
And we have some questions for you. And
Okay, let me have some answers.
yeah, and to present to our speaker, to present to our audience. First question is, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself and your organization?
Yes, our organization was founded approximately 14 years ago. Are you hearing me well?
Yes.
Okay, good. Approximately 14 years ago, and it was founded by a couple of people in the community that had a heart for people who were in active drug addiction. And our founder had actually served 15 years of a federal sentence for bank robbery. And he had a miraculous conversion while he was in jail. And when he got out, he wanted to start something for addicts because he had been his life had been affected so much by his addiction. So got together with a couple of other leaders in the community, and they formed Impact. And so we carry on his legacy. He passed away about 4 years ago. We carry on his legacy today to reach out to those in our community who are suffering from drug addiction. We do it through a 12-step Christ-based program, which focuses on a total healing, not just a physical healing. We want people to be spiritually well and then become active participants of the community.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And now, could you share how addiction has impacted the communities or individuals you serve?
Sure. Well, as most of you know, the way addiction typically attacks the family, typically destroys the community is through the family. And, all the way from parents who are in active addiction and they have children who may be addicted at birth or taken away from CPS not too long afterwards. Families that are destroyed from domestic violence or as a result of addiction or through abject poverty. Then, of course, they're the ones that end up in the legal system that we try and reach as well. We have a ministry that operates in the jail. I'm currently in training to be the jail librarian, so that will give us another entree into the legal system in Burleson County that will help, hopefully help with those needs as well. We try and give them some place, try and connect with them while they're in jail so that they know that there's a place that they can come to when they get out if they'd like to start getting clean.
Perfect. Thank you. And what advice would you give to mothers who are struggling with their own addiction or supporting a loved one through theirs?
Right. My advice to anyone who is struggling with addiction is to is to find Jesus. I don't know any other way to say it. That's how I got to a point of being clean. And so there's so much that encompasses. Not only do you get spiritual healing, but you get, uh, there's a retraining of the mind. So there was so much more of getting clean than simply turning off the desire. God did for me what I couldn't do for myself, and that was to take away the desire. After using for 51 years, uh, I didn't get clean until I was 60. I've been clean, and when I say clean, I mean totally clean for 6 years, 3 months. And I had never been clean 3 weeks for my entire life. I started uh, heavy drugs when I was 11. I started injecting drugs when I was 17 and didn't stop until I was 57. And I only stopped then because I didn't have any place left to inject. So for me, it was a hopeless situation. I didn't have any hope of ever being uh, clean. Um, I tell you this simply because I want people to understand that no one's too far gone, right? I was living under the freeway in a major city, and all it took was for one stop here enough to reach out and try and change, help me change. God took away the desire for drugs, but then it was up to me to do my part. And the thing that I could do was to find a new group of friends, retrain my mind. You have to understand, after using for that long and starting as early as I didn't know how to act like a normal person. I had no concept, if you will, of how to handle everyday emotions without chemicals. Anger, love, simple things like checkbook. It's all kind of foreign to me. And anything that I learned or experienced had all been through the mask of drugs, alcohol. So anyway, that's how I got involved with Impact. The person that took me there was my ex-wife, and she said, why don't we try something different? And I walked into the door at Impact and found out that it was a Christ-based 12-step program. I had tried 12-step programs before. I was never impressed. I was excited about a Christ-based 12-step program because that was my background as a kid. And I knew that was something that I could get behind. So that's how I started the journey through Impact, and then it was just a process. Everybody would like to think that there's an easy answer, and there's not. There's not a miracle drug. There's not a one-step solution. I've seen it in all of its permeations, and I haven't seen one that was easy or simple. Requires something of you. So I think I got off track from your original question, which was what can mothers do? Was that it?
Yeah, what advice would you give to mothers?
Yeah. So that was a long way of saying I think you need Jesus. And I'm telling you that because that's what's worked for me, and I've seen it work for others. I'm not saying that there's not other ways, but I'm just saying that that's what worked for me. So if you want my opinion on what works, that's my answer.
Thank you. And now, what unique approaches does your organization take to support families affected by addiction?
Right. So, uh, Impact, our motto is a hand up, not a handout, and we partner with our local food pantry uh, for food, clothes, and help with bill. Okay. Beyond that, we work hand in glove with other community efforts and different events that are held throughout our community for for kids. We try and be there and try and be a presence to be available, at different fairs and things of that nature. Like I said before, we're in the jail, which is a good place for interdiction, and so I don't know. We also have recently started a study that is just for women. We're really, really proud of that. We have for the first time a lady in our group who has longevity and clean time, and she's very active in our community in 2 different counties actually, and she's stepped up to be a leader in women's organizations. So we're really proud to have her, and I think that she's another jewel in our crown, if you will.
Thank you. And so next is what do you see as the biggest gap in addiction support and resources today, and how is your organization addressing that?
Yeah, I've thought about this a little bit, and I don't know. Addiction is such a tough thing. It's hard to give a simple answer, but as I see it, there seems to be a gap in education of the young. But I don't know how to do that better. I really don't. When I was a kid, I was in church. I was involved in a revival that swept through the entire city, that captured a lot of young people who were on drugs and turned their life around. We had narcotics officers come to our school, show us films about drugs, all of that. I think there needs, as far as education goes, I think there needs to be some mentorship where people who have actually experienced that can be available to maybe mentor or speak into youngsters' lives. It would be nice to catch them before the problem presents itself. I don't know how you're ever going to beat kids' innate desire to rebel, which is what happened to me, I think, in large part. That's all I've got. Sorry.
No worries. Thank you so much. Thank you. So, how does your organization measure success and impact in your addiction-related programs?
Sure. So, for me, and I know this probably doesn't sound kosher to some people, but I tell the people that are in my group that I'm more concerned with your eternal soul than I am with your addiction. And my belief is that if we can heal that part of you, that the healing from addiction will follow. That's how I measure success. I want people to have a relationship with God. I want people's lives to be changed. I want to see a whole healing from the top of their head to the bottom of their foot. I don't want it to just be a temporary patch. I want it to be a source where they can go back to time and time again whenever life throws the wicked things at it that it does. It doesn't just stop because you become a Christian, but now you've got a new support system. And that's the way I see it. The other way, of course, the way we measure longevity is by, success is by longevity of sobriety. So, we celebrate whenever someone reaches their goals. I recently had my co-director celebrate 13 years, and that's great. And we have had we've had a lot of people with multiple year successes, and it keeps growing every year. I'm happy to say that, simply because they're not coming to the program anymore, doesn't mean that they've slipped back. No, they're out in the community and they're doing their part to take the message of healing from addiction to the rest of the community. They're very active in their churches and in the different organizations that they may represent, and I'm very proud of our people.
Thank you. And are there any specific resources, programs, or strategies that you found particularly helpful in dealing with addiction?
So, once again, my go-to answer on this is the Bible and a relationship with Jesus Christ. I wouldn't have come this far without it. That's all I can say. And I think I can speak for the majority of the people in our group that they feel the same way. It's wonderful to see these individuals who were every bit as lost as I was find relationship, and not only with other believers in the community, but they're reaching out, helping those who are lost like they were. I think the wonderful thing about our group is that they don't just hold on to what they have and hide, which was my initial reaction. I moved to this new community from the city, and I didn't want anyone here to know of my past, right? I wanted them to judge me of just who I was, the person that they saw. That they didn't want them to know who I'd been. And I remember after I'd been in the program for a while, and my mentor said to me, "Well, John, why don't you think about giving us your testimony?" I said, "I'm just not interested in doing that." I said, God has healed me from everything that I was, and I'm really grateful for that. And I have no desire to relive that. I want the people in this community to judge me for who I am, not who I was. And I get a fresh start that way. And I think he let that ride the first time. And then he asked me again some months before he passed away, actually. And he said, how about it? You think you're ready? I said, no, I'm good. And he said, answer me this. He said, are you ashamed of what Jesus has done in your life? I said, no, I'm quite thankful and proud of it. Then he says, then you need to tell people. So that's kind of where I stand on that. So you asked me, what do we have? We have really good people. We have the Bible. We have Jesus Christ, who said that he would be with us always. And as far as special programs go, we work out of two separate programs. One's called Celebrate Recovery. The other's called Life Recovery. Both of those are 12-step Bible-based recovery programs. The ladies program is an in-depth study of the Celebrate Recovery literature. And let's see, what else? think that's all I've got.
Well, thank you so much for that. So it's the Bible and Jesus.
Primarily.
Yeah.
And the help of others. The enemy loves for us to think that we're all alone. And I know when I first got into the program, I thought nobody knows what I've been through. Nobody has, and things of that nature. The enemy likes to isolate you and think that your problems are unique and that you're somehow an outsider. No one will understand you, right? When I got in the group, I realized that the things that I experienced growing up, the traumas, the different things that were nothing. I felt really ashamed that I ever thought that they were. When you see some of the true trauma that people go through, made the things that I went through look like nothing. And so when you can get in a group setting like that and realize that you're not alone, and there are already people established in there who have clean time, they have a walk with the Lord, and they want to reach out, they want to see you succeed. That's huge. That's huge, and that's exactly what the enemy wants to keep us away from. So many people are resistant to groups like ours because they absolutely detest the idea of groups, if you will, right? And part of that is the addiction. The addiction doesn't want to reveal itself. It doesn't want to get better. Really doesn't. You asked me how I was feeling up to the moment that my supply ran out when I was living out of the freeway. I would tell you that whereas living outside wasn't ideal, I wasn't unhappy. I was satisfied with my life as an addict. I had nobody messing with me. I had a little routine. I didn't steal. I didn't stand on the street corner and beg. I had little odd jobs that kept me in supply of what I needed to get high. So I was really quite comfortable. Once that supply got interrupted and I had a real heart to I was crushed. I was crushed by the fact that I was such a slave. I was crushed by the fact that a person who I had relied on, who knew my situation, would sell me for a lot of money stuff that wasn't drugs. I was crushed by the whole thing. So after becoming sober under the freeway, I go, God, how can I continue to live like this sober? It was really an eye opener that the drugs had been masking all that time of how desperate my situation was. The things that I had come to take as normal that were so abnormal. These are just devices that the enemy uses to keep us in a life of addiction until we die, which is exactly how I saw my life. I didn't think that I would ever progress from under the freeway and that one day one of the highway workers would find me, in a pile under the freeway. That's just how life was. So I think your original question was, I'm sorry, I lost it.
Well, that's lead into the question of is there anything else which more people understood about addiction and the work your organization does?
Right. So the only other thing that I would have to say about that, and that is having quit at 6 years old. So many people put a number on addicts, and they think that if you've reached a certain point, there's no hope, right? And quite honestly, I would have thought the same thing. And then there's this little phrase, but God. And nothing is impossible for God. And I know that the reason that I'm sitting here today is from the prayers of others. And I've been telling people in my classes in the jail for the last couple of days, I've been telling them to think about the person that pops into your mind that that you really have a problem with, that you hate, that you have animosities toward. And I said, pray for that person. I said, number one, it'll do two things. It'll help free you up from the crushing thoughts that you have about that person. And I said, and the thing is that you may be the only person in the world that's praying for that person. And that's powerful. People underestimate the power of prayer. Like I said, I wouldn't be here today if it hadn't been for many loved ones that prayed for me, and they stood fast. And that's the other thing that I'd like to say is that, don't give up. It's always possible with God. With your dying breath, continue to pray for that person. You never know what God will do. I've seen God honor the prayers of people who had prayed for a loved one all their life and they had passed away, and that loved one came to saving grace of the Lord miraculously. Well, God was honoring their prayers. They had already prayed them. Simply because they weren't here to pray them anymore doesn't mean that their prayers weren't listened to or heard. So that's all I got on that. Don't give up. That's my message of hope.
Perfect. Well, Eva.
I do have a question. Can I ask my question?
Yes, of course. Yes, go ahead.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, hello. I want to give you so much appreciation that you're in a rural area, and it is very difficult where you live. It seems like because there's internet issues all the time, and there's also issues with getting help for people that do struggle with. And that's what I want to convey today, that there's help out there. If you can let us know. First, my question was, it's going to lead up to where you're at now, living in Burleson County, but and where your foundation is. But what big city did you come from? And I want to applaud you first on your 50 years of your struggling, and then your 6 years of sobriety. You're probably the first person I met with that longest of a struggle. That means you were very, very young. At what age, if you could tell us? You said, I think, up to 60. I think you said 9. Was I correct on that?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I heard this guy in the jail the other night. He said, well, I was clean for 12 years.
Wow.
And I said, really, what happened? And he said, I turned 13. So that was my story. I was clean for 8 years and then I turned 9. So anyway, the major city was Houston.
Okay.
Anybody that knows Houston probably knows where my home was there, which was under I-10 and Beltway 8.
Wow.
And I was able to tuck myself back in there where nobody could see me. Occasionally I had a little cot next to one of the huge pillars of the overpass that you could only sit from above if you were on the freeway above and looking down. And I would be laying there late at night reading, and the highway guys would come by, and must have been the same guy over and over, because he would stop and he would yell down, and I would look up at him and wave, and he would wave back. It was just like his way of checking up, making sure I was still okay. Now, I want people to understand this. This is one of the things addiction does to you. There were places where I could have gone, but I preferred to live like that, like an animal, because I didn't want anyone to, interrupt my high. I was so self-absorbed in my addiction that yeah, I couldn't, I didn't function well in um, a lot of personal settings, I guess.
And JP, did I hear correctly? I must congratulate you on this though, as well. Because of addiction, 17 years of your marriage fizzled and ended up in divorce, but you are now
Yes, ma'am.
rekindled. You are now rekindled with that ex-wife and live in sobriety. So thank you for.
Yeah,
Oh my God, how did that lead into that?
that was a wonderful. Well, God laid it on her heart uh, to check on me, and this is, like I said, after 17 years of divorce, and we had always kept in touch. We were always good friends. That didn't. That never went by the wayside. We had a son together, and they had moved from Houston to Somerville, and we had tried to get back together over the years, and it just never worked. But we never stopped loving and caring about each other. Anyway, she said that God put it on her heart to help me whatever way she could. So she came to Houston and said, her suggestion was that because people had never known me other than anything than high, and she thought that I was she thought that I was bipolar, and I can see where you would think that. I may have even thought it. I don't know, but so I came to Burleson County and went through the MHMR program, and they said that there was nothing that they could do for me, and I was pretty discouraged by that, and started walking back towards Somerville. I mean, that's what she took me to Impact. She said, "Why don't we try something different?" She had known much was in the past, the different kinds of things that I may have gone to try and get clean and so on and so forth. And she said, "Why don't we try something different?" She knew of Mike in the program, and so she had that history of knowing him, and so, like I said, when I walked in, it was like I finally came home, and so I initially started out as I guess just a guest upstairs, and I started taking odd jobs in the community and so on and so forth, and just kept at it, going to my meetings as often as I could, getting involved in local church, and just did everything that I could to get better. And then, like I said, there's just so many different little things that you don't think about, like the music that I listen to, like the programs that you watch. All those things, they matter.
Um,
So
so
anyway, yeah, God's brought us back together in a wonderful way. I'm sorry, Wayne, go ahead. That's it, right?
what city? What city did you struggled in most when you stayed large? You say large city, and how did you end up in Somerville?
Say that again, please.
Yeah.
I think your audio.
Oh, yeah. This is Eva. I'm sorry about that. I was just going through the question in the chat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think I kind of answered that.
Okay. And then let's see what else in the chat here. Lucas said getting sober and giving back at the same time is very admirable.
Thank you, Lucas.
Yes, and then I can relate to that. It's work, it's time and effort. So, and then Eva said, you have a wonderful personal testimony, and you have a very admirable personal journey with addiction. So yeah, let's see what else. And Heather said, "What would you have done without God?"
What would I have done without God? I think it would have ended up at its logical conclusion, which would have been me killing myself. Not necessarily on purpose, but just through my addiction, that it would have ended up killing me. The Lord knows that the enemy has tried to take me out many times before, but never had I been in such a place of just hopelessness. Anybody who's ever tried to quit drugs by themselves know how hopeless that can feel. You can want to be clean so bad, and you just can't fight. It just becomes impossible to fight the urges, to fight the desire. So anyway, yeah, that would have been it, I'm pretty sure. Thank you for your question.
Yeah. And I have one more question here in the chat. What current music do you listen to that inspires your sobriety?
I'm really, really old school, so my favorite music to listen to is still like DC Talk and stuff like that. I know that's kind of weird, but that's where I'm stuck. But I don't listen to a lot of music. I listen to a lot of uplifting sermons and things like that. So I just changed what I listen to. I remember on my way to meeting probably in my first year, I was listening to some of my old hardcore stuff, and it just didn't sit well with my spirit. It was very depressing, and I realized how dark it was, and I thought, well, this is incongruous with the person who I want to be. And so not only that, but it just made me feel gross. I don't know any other way to put it. So I knew that I needed to do something about that. And then, like I said, it's just those little things. It's what you view. So, the movies that we were watching or had watched forever, different things like that, they start offending. And I guess it's the spirit that lives within you that's it, right? And so you make the necessary adjustments. It means you don't watch that stuff. So for me, it's been a series of doing those things that I can't, changing the things that I can change. Those are easy. We think they're harder than they are.
Perfect. Well, and then Tiffany, she made a comment, and then I love all of these comments. It is the participation. She said, "I admire you through the years of where you are today to overcome and continue your journey, helping other people." And to tap onto that, for me personally, I do appreciate all the work that you are doing, and I really acknowledge about your personal story that you had come this far, and make a difference. So yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. And Yeva, she has another question. Are there others around your area, rural, struggling, and what is the solution? Just what? Can everybody hear me okay? Is everything okay?
Yes, I can hear you just fine.
Okay. Um,
Yeah, it is. Sorry.
Sorry, we lost our
yeah.
connection.
Okay.
Are we back?
Yes, we are back. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay. So again, it's what are what are others around your area, rural, struggling, and what is the solution to that?
So once again, the solution that I found that worked for me and worked for many others in our group um, is Christ in the Bible. Find yourself a good church, get plugged into it. Your church has many needs. You'll be able to find other people in the community that have needs. We don't just help people who are drug addicted. We help elderly. We help just people in need. Our primary focus, of course, is for those who are drug addicted, but we don't feel like that's our sole mission in the community. It is our focus, but it's not our sole mission. Our sole mission is to be salt and light wherever we can be, help whoever we can. And so, you know, we're out there, we're making ourselves available. There are agencies in the community that are willing to help people. There are programs that are low cost, no cost, willing to help in the rehabilitation sector. And so anyway, but people have to want to. That's the one requirement for getting clean is a desire to. It has to be really strong. And unfortunately, people sometimes have to hit that, you've heard it, the proverbial bottom. And I found out that there are sub basements to the bottom, that if you think you're at the bottom now and you think it's as low as you can go, trust me, there are new levels yet undiscovered.
Perfect. Beautiful. And then also from Yeva, can your foundation partner with Mothers Against Addiction?
I don't know what that means, but it's certainly something we can talk about at another time. Sure.
And that means having other guest speakers coming to our Saturday events.
You from Impact?
Yeah, to share.
Yeah, I'd love that.
And then also,
I've already talked to one of the mothers in our group, the lady who leads the women's program, if she would like to, and she said she'd love to. So
right, and then referrals. So you have all these clients coming through your doors. You can send them to our weekly Mother Shares event, the Saturday speaker series,
right.
The monthly open shares, co-ed, and the lunch and learns on Wednesdays. So by the word of mouth, by referrals,
Sure.
Things like that.
We'd love to partner.
And you can find all our events on our events page.
Okay.
Mothers Against Addiction.org. I will put the link in the chat.
Okay.
And one more question. This is from Nubia. What made you want to try drugs at a younger age?
All right. So I tell people that it was really sounds so silly to say it, but it was by accident. I spilled some gasoline in the garage when I was filling up the lawnmower, and I got high. And so I continued to do that, sniff gasoline to get high. And then I found out that there were other things that I could sniff in the different household products that I could sniff to get high. So I guess that made me susceptible to the first time I was offered drugs when I was 11, to be willing to try them. The first drug I ever tried was speed. The second drug I ever tried was LSD. This is a year or two before I ever even saw pot. So you have to understand this was the early 70s, very early 70s. I mean, 1970, 1969, when it was all just kind of beginning. So yeah, very curious. Um, you know, obviously I was dealing with some stuff that, uh, yeah, I just don't, I don't know. That was really it. That was the foundation of it. Was something that was a pure accident, and maybe that's what led to my other behaviors of acting out and so on and so forth. I started running away when I was 13, living on the streets then, uh, and anyway, it didn't help things. Didn't help things. Had such a low opinion of my worth that I didn't see myself living to a very long age. So I didn't really care about anything. There were no consequences, I guess, that concerned me. Does that make sense? Um, when people would say, "Well, what about your future?" and I didn't see a future. So that's all I got for you. That Nubia, sorry.
It's okay. Thank you so much. And I understand.
Good.
And congratulations. I'm very proud of you.
Thank you, Precious. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay, and then Yeva said, thanks for all your time and energy. Your testimony is an echo for so many and blessings. And then for Lucas said, you have come a long way from under the bridge. Thank you for the outstanding job guesting for us today. Keep doing what you do.
Thank you, Lucas. I appreciate that.
And I put in the link to our webpage where we have all the events and resources that you can refer your clients over to us.
Very good.
Yeah. And one last question from Lucas.
Okay.
Charity starts at home as you have been doing, but have you ever thought of going back to I-10 to help others?
Yes, I have. You know why? This whole this atmosphere that I live in now that requires so much responsibility sometimes is daunting, and I just think back and I realized how carefree that was. And yeah, it's a momentary blip in my thought processes, but yeah, I have thought about it. Sometimes it's just my go-to thought when things are feel like they're crashing down around me, and I think, wow, that would be nice. Not necessarily the drug part, but just the carefree, no responsibility of living on the freeway. But then I realized quickly enough that the other part of that equation is to be high, and that's not anything that I'm ever willing to give up. The way that looks to me to take the gift that God's given me of sobriety, something that I never anticipated, is the idea of throwing that back in his face. I can't even think about it. It's nothing that even crosses my radar. But it's a good question.
And so that and then Eva said go back to I tend to help others, yeah, and tell them in person about God. So
I see. Maybe I misunderstood the question at first. You say go back to I-10. Well, to be honest with you, there was no one else around me. There was one guy who was directly, you know how the freeway goes up, there's a little ramp that goes up. He was living in here. he was the closest person to me. I approached him once, and I thought he was going to. Anyway, I think he was. But anyway, I guess we're all kind of disturbed. But anyway, so no, I had no contact with other people that were living like that. I really was truly isolated. Now there may be more people there that I'm not aware of, but no, it's an interesting thought. My brain hasn't gone there, and there may be a reason for it, but I'm happy with this community that's offered me so much to give back to it.
Perfect. Well, is there any other question?
No, just thank you so much, JC. You're such an inspiration to the struggles that people have in addiction. And love to have you back on to learn more about you and what you're impacting the rural sections. There's not a lot of providers there that help people with addictions when you're outside a certain area or they're too far away. But you're there out there in the Caldwell, Somerville, Brennan, Texas County, I believe. So thank you.
There's a lot more in Brazos where College Station is, but even then, it's kind of slim. College Station is a neighboring county, our community to ours, and so they have a pretty good system there. And then there's a little bit more in the county that Brenham is in, which is Washington County. But anyway, thank you, Eva. I appreciate it. Thank you for your time, and I hope you're feeling better, by the way.
Thank you, and God bless, and you, your wife, and everything, and your entire mission. Looking forward to meeting you one day.
Yeah, that'd be great.